West
ever
Coast.
alligator wrestle?
Have I?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Back when you were in shape, probably, right? In your wrestling days?
Well, I was in not as good shape as I was in early 2000s, but a little better shape than I am now. But yeah, when I worked at Gatorland.
So, Luke, welcome to our show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
I gotta get intros because Jess is like, you need intros. So welcome. We're gonna get gritty on this podcast of three. So I know you through being in town here,
right?
And I remember back in the day when you and Bill had your show downtown.
Yes.
And I was like, who is this cat? And I'm like. Then you guys set up downtown. You had a logo in the window. You guys are doing your thing. And I'm like, you know what? These guys is what our community needed at the time.
Right.
And I was so sad when you guys...
Yeah. It was kind of a sad choice. But since I worked at Disney years ago in Florida, like, I'm a dreamer. I'd rather at least see a dream and try to make it come true. And if it takes, great. And if it doesn't, hey, you have experience. You gain some knowledge out of it. And no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be really cool because I started getting into different podcasting formats, and it just seemed like a really cool thing to do. And Bill had a lot of extra free time back then, so did I. And we had a lot of fun doing it. You know, we made it to, we were on iHeartRadio, the cool little app you can listen to. It's like this little radio show that we only had maybe a couple hundred listeners that actually listened live to us. But we were getting some decent numbers on iHeartRadio considering. And I think it's because it was just two average guys sitting around talking. You know, we kind of had a loose schedule or format of what we were going to do, but it was nothing set in stone by any means. Mm-hmm. And it was just fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. Had a lot of people would drive by and honk and wave. A lot of people walking by. So
yeah, no,
it was a lot of fun.
It was like, you remember that, Jess, when we were downtown?
Like,
oh my
gosh.
gosh.
The downtown thing now that you say it. Like,
oh, I was just sad.
Yeah, we actually started the very first one we did when we had a different kind of like health food cafe downtown years ago. Sambuca.
Yeah, Sambuca.
When they were down there, we did the very first podcast in their front window. So did one there, and then after a few months of kind of bouncing around from business to business, we're like, let's try to do something else. Let's take it a little step further.
Yeah.
It was great.
So are you originally from Florida, or are you just...
Born and raised in Vassar, man.
Vassar, but then you said, hey, I'm out of here?
Well, after high school, although, you know, I'm a husky guy. I'll say that. Husky. Take your call. No? Okay. After high school, I was kind of like the gentleman that runs our gym here in town. I was big into pro wrestling. So went down there, checked out a school in Cincinnati, about 10 miles north of Cincinnati, and met a couple really cool people. And before you know it, here it is, the end of 1998, and I'm moving to Ohio. Went down there, had a good couple years, met a couple good friends of mine that we're still close with today. One guy's actually, you know, he's been on TV on and off WWE. Like, we're still in touch. We text quite often, and... It was one of those things where I'd rather try 100 things and fail 100 times and not try something, because the thought of having to live with that what if, I can deal with, it didn't work out right. I can deal with that all day. But the whole, I should have tried that.
Yeah.
That I don't want to have to live with. And it was great. Had a handful of matches, but then was in the ring one night with a guy in front of about maybe 30 people on a high end. And the dude was coming off a staph infection and maybe shouldn't have been quite in the ring yet. So I went to take a back body drop move, but you're running at the guy. He bends down, tosses you up over him. You land on your back. Well, his arm was kind of weak, so he pushed me up, but kind of like this. So I'm trying to correct my butt in the air, and it could have been worse, but I hit the mat on my back, and for probably a good 3 seconds, I'm like, where's my right leg? Where's my right leg? Then I'm like, okay, I'm moving my toe. That right there was enough to go, you know what? You tried this. You had some fun. You traveled around Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois. Yeah. Cool. What's next? Mm-hmm. So spent about another 3 months down there just kind of helping do some writing and creative stuff. And it was like, palm trees are calling.
Yeah. Well, so, that was my question too. I mean, everybody's like, oh, that's all fake. But I mean, you suffer.
The outcomes are fake, but it actually takes one heck of an athlete to be able to do. And I was in really good shape back then too, but that was 20 years ago, Corey.
Right.
I had a 4-pack back then. I did. It was impressive too.
It's still there. You just can't see it.
It is. I keep it insulated this time of year very well. But no, it does. It takes a lot of physical stamina, but also a lot of mental stamina, because 9 times out of 10, you and that person you're working with in the ring, you guys already know darn near move for move what you're going to do, whether your match is 5 minutes or 20 or 30 minutes. You have to remember each step. And it's a lot, but it's also changed so much over the years too. I don't find myself watching it like I used to. I tune in once in a while if I know maybe a familiar face is going to be on, or if it's like, oh, I remember that guy, but don't watch it as much, but have a lot of respect for it, because it was brutal from time to time.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I know Larry still.
Yeah, Larry is still involved. And actually, I'm still in talks with a gentleman that runs a promotion out of the Saginaw Bay City area that Larry used to work for.
Okay. Nice.
So him and I are kind of having some creative conversations right now, because he's bringing his business back, and we'll see what happens down the road.
Good.
But it's an interesting business to have some knowledge in. That's all I can tell you.
So how'd you get to Florida? So you got done with your wrestling.
Got done with
And you're
wrestling, and basically, when I was 5 or 4, my mom and dad divorced. My mom remarried, although my stepdad originally was from New Jersey. His parents and his siblings all lived in Florida. So from the age of 6 on, I was flying to Florida 2-3 times a year to visit my new family, and going to Disney every other trip, and just seeing a different world, basically, because at 7, 8 years old, I could get on a plane in Flint or in Saginaw with my mom and stepdad, and 2 hours later, I walk off and it's 90 degrees, but I just left 8 inches of snow, and we didn't know if the flight was going to even take off.
Right.
I didn't know how to comprehend all that yet, and I just knew one day I want to be here. So after the wrestling gig, it was time to go there. And it was fun.
Did you work at Disney then?
I worked, again, I was in shape then, Corey. Yeah, I worked for the health clubs at all the Disney resorts. I was
nice.
a lead for the health clubs. So every day I would go to, whether it's Contemporary Resort at Disney, Animal Kingdom Lodge, I'd go to just every resort on Disney property, do some stuff on the checklist, make sure, the books looked okay, any equipment issues, check in how many guests the hotel had, do all that stuff. And it was very cool, but you had all the perks of Disney. You got to go to the parks for free any day and every day you want.
So how does that setup work at Disney? Is do they house everybody? Is it like a housing program?
I know they're bringing back the college program. Years ago, when you were, I think, like a year or two into college, Disney offered a college program where you could go down there for a semester. They would house you. You would get paid, not a ton, but you got paid. You could work at various parts of either the resorts or the theme parks. And but no, a lot of the people that work at Disney are all local people. Or obviously a lot of folks from out of Florida and even other countries.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, you go to Epcot, each of the countries around the World Showcase has folks from those countries in it. So you go to the UK, it's all a bunch of Brits. You go to Germany, all German staff. But it's amazing to work at a place that has like 80,000 employees, and most of them are happy all the time.
Yeah.
I was always treated very well there. But yeah, the theme park world has been a big part of my life pretty much forever, or since I can remember. So yeah.
So I know you still go down there occasionally.
Yeah, actually.
Do you go down there and work at all, or you just go down there?
I don't go down there and work. Years ago, when I kind of stumbled across vlogging one night, I was actually probably maybe 5 years ago, right here in Vassar, we had the REACH program. They were staying at Central School. I want to say it was like midsummer. I was a school employee then, and they contacted me and said, hey, would you like to, we need a school employee. We need basically just a warm body in the school during the nighttime while they're there. Somebody that has keys, somebody that just knows the school in case they need anything. I'm like, okay, sure. They're like, well, you'll get paid. You can sit in the office, bring your computer in. You can play on your phone. You just have to be in the building. I said, I'm down. So for 4 nights, my MacBook and I went up and sat in the office at Central School, and I'm YouTube and stuff. I'm like, I haven't checked out Disney, or I haven't checked out another job I worked down there, Gatorland. Let me see if there's any Gatorland videos. And then I'm like, what's this guy? What's a vlog? So I'm clicking on this, and it's like back in the 80s and 90s when you had your old like RCA camcorder.
Yeah, yeah.
It's basically people throwing up home movies wherever they go. And I'm like, this is fascinating. And for 4 or 5 nights, that consumed me. And I fell in love, literally in love with what people from all over the world were doing when they were going to Florida. And it was like, my reaction was a little different because to me, that's all secondhand. It's all second nature to them. To come to America after saving up for 5 years and to go inside a Walmart was fascinating. And it made me rethink like, okay, this is really, really cool. But yeah, that's where the whole video stuff happened. And then, years ago, we were going down to Florida a few times a year, and I started making little videos when we would go. And actually, as of this morning, I'm like 20 views away from hitting 58,000 on one of my videos. Not that that's a ton.
Wow,
not that
that's still pretty good.
These young kids that do like, I'm unboxing my new Nikes and they get 1 million views. That's not me.
Yeah.
But in that video was simply me going into like a Boston lobster feast place by myself and having dinner. In another one that's at right about 58 is I went into a Japanese steakhouse called Kobe. I went in there by myself. It was a solo trip I did for 3 weeks, 2 summers ago. And again, almost 58,000 views on that too. And it's like, oh my gosh, who's interested in me eating at a Japanese steakhouse? But it was just the things I was getting on film caught people. And I look back at like a lot of the analytics, and people weren't just watching the first 90 seconds and bolting. There were people that were staying on that 18, 20-minute video for 12, 13, 14 minutes. And I'm like, that's really good because you don't get that a lot.
Yeah, that's amazing.
They'll watch it for a minute, maybe 2 tops, and that's not what I want, and you're on to the next video. I'm guilty of that too. But I'm like, okay, that's some cool numbers right there.
Yeah, I actually, this last probably 3 months, maybe 6 months, I'm big time into YouTube, but not what you think.
Okay.
I have my little grandson, Linkson.
Oh, right
He's
on.
2.5. And we watch YouTube videos from the time he gets up to the time he goes to bed.
Awesome. It is a heck of a thing because, again, up until the Reach program 5-6 years ago, I'd hop on there to go, I'm a huge, I'll probably get beat up for this outside of here, but I'm a big Def Leppard fan. That was like when I come into loving music. And I'm like, okay, I'm looking up live Def Leppard stuff on YouTube or little odds and end things, but I didn't really dive into what YouTube was until a little bit after it was out. And yeah, you can find anything and everything
That's like
in this planet.
our oldest son, Jordan, loves drag racing.
Oh, yeah.
And when he's at the house, that's all he watches.
Yep.
All day.
Yeah, it is a phenomenal thing. And then to find how people kind of build their own brands off of YouTube too, which is crazy. Again, I was talking to Jess about this before you got here, and I started watching a couple vloggers 2-3 years ago that were doing it on their days off, but they lived in Florida, Orlando, and I got an annual pass. So I'm going to go to Disney every Wednesday and Saturday on my days off. They went from having 150, people that were checking them out to 300 subscribers, 1,000 subscribers, 11,000 subscribers, and now 2-3 years later, that is their full-time job. They go out and just do things normal tourists would do. And that's how they make a living. Some of them have sponsors by clothing lines and by one guy actually has he calls it a partnership, but Tervis, the cups.
Yeah.
He carries a Tervis into Epcot every time he goes, and it's always a different Tervis. And it's like, that's fascinating. I love Tervis, and you're getting all these cool free cups, and you get to go to Epcot every day, and I want that life.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's an interesting world.
You think some of that's pure luck?
I think it's a lot of pure luck, but it's also a lot of dedication, and also, which is something I struggle with a lot, being where you want to be and having the capability to go out your front door and do that pretty much any day of the week or every day of the week. Sometimes in smaller areas, less populated places, stuff that's maybe not 100% touristy, it's hard to go out there and always get fresh content. Now, maybe like you doing what you do for a living, it might be different because your scenery changes every single day. If I wanted to do a daily vlog, it would be kind of tough because it would be me driving in my car from point A to point B. All right, I'm listening to radio, whatever. Going upstairs, I don't really take a camera into the radio station, and then driving back. There's not a whole lot that, I would be, I've got to stop off at Kroger. That's fun. Who the hell wants to see that,
You never know.
Yeah, that's true. You never know. Actually, I was turned on to this New Zealand family. They're really, really cool. It's a mom, dad, and 2 kids, probably like between 9 and 12, 9 and 13. They come over to America for the first time this past summer, and everything blew their mind. Walmart, the fact that we have more than 2 brands of yogurt exploded them. They had no clue. And to see things that we have here that they didn't even know existed. Again, that's one of those, like, I can put myself in those shoes going, that is really cool. And then to go to, like, they would make videos that were getting 50, 100,000 hits. Our first time visiting a Chick-fil-A or a Popeyes, or we went to Five Guys. We have that everywhere, but they don't. So to see their reaction to this ginormous burger show up, or to try like a Chick-fil-A sauce for the first time, again, literally blew their minds. And it's so cool because it was like I'm almost living, in them right now, because I'm like, I remember my first time trying that, or that's amazing. Yeah, it's really cool. But again, you can do so much with YouTube.
So you do any vlogging anymore, or just maybe
I
when you
do,
some
but
trips?
anymore it's just kind of a lot of random stuff. Like if Tina and I are gonna go out, it's like, hey, let's let me shoot a little bit of stuff today here and there. March, do have a trip to Florida planned, and got some cool things going on then. So I do plan on doing.
Give me an insight.
Well, there will be involved alligators. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Actually, gonna go see my aunt and uncle for a few days over on the West Coast.
Alligator wrestle.
Have I?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Back when you were in shape, probably, right? In your wrestling days?
Well, I was in not as good shape as I was in early 2000s, but a little better shape than I am now. But yeah, when I worked at Gatorland, I did all 3 of the entertainment shows there. It was kind of weird. I called Gatorland, and when I was, I'm like, listen, I want to get in there. I've only been to your park a few times. This is my kind of place. All right, well, we're opening a new zip line in like 6 weeks, and we're doing auditions to be a zip line guide. I'm like, an audition to be a zip line guide? Well, it's kind of like a test interview all in one. All right. So I show up at Gatorland on this random like Tuesday, Wednesday afternoon, and the one manager guy comes out, Mike, who I'm great friends with to this day. We shake hands, we're talking a few minutes. He's like, yeah, the zip line course opens in about 6 weeks. We dumped $3 million into it. In about 10 minutes, I forgot the gentleman's name, the guy that was up from the company in like Minnesota who was building the whole thing. He was coming and he wants to meet you, and we have some other people we've interviewed and a couple more tomorrow. Okay, great. So I learned a lot about the zip line course. They're like, okay, do you have a fear of heights? I'm like, not really. I mean, I love to fly. I'm a roller coaster guy. I'm like, not too scared of heights. All right. So they told me what I had to do to like kind of do like a little tryout for it. And the first zip line unit it's really high in the air. They're like, you got to, within 4 minutes, you have to run up and down this set of stairs 5 times. And I'm like, there's a lot of weight I got to push up, And so I did that. It was fantastic. Did it in under the 5. It was perfect. I'm like, that's great. Or the 4 minutes. And then they're like, okay, well, it's not open yet, but we're approved. Like everything's signed off on. We're going to go ahead and zip you from Tower 1 to Tower 2. And I'm like, sounds great. So I'd never ziplined a day in my life. So they're harnessing me up. I'm watching what they're doing. I'm like, okay, it's not that hard, but cool. I'm watching it. They're like, all right, well, you're going to basically just kind of take a couple, 3, 4 steps at kind of like a fast pace and just let go when you jump off and get to the other side. And I'm not the smartest guy in the world, Corey, but usually if you're going from one tower to another, there's usually someone over there that's going to slow you down, stop you. No, there wasn't. I'm like, well, are you going to go over there? No, just when you get to the other side, just kick back off. Now, I did take math in Vassar, but I could figure out and put numbers together with my weight, the angle. I'm like, I'm not pushing myself back. I'm not going to make it back to point A where I started.
Right.
But I did what they said. I ziplined. It was beautiful. It's like I think like a 115-foot run. It was phenomenal. It was great. So I get over there. I kick back off, and I'm going, and I'm like, okay, we're dipping a little. We start to go up, and then we start to slide back down. I kind of did this motion. Now, that wouldn't have been so bad, but have you been ziplining? You ever had the rigging on for a guy that's kind of right up?
Tight.
It's
a little snug, let's say.
So I have, at the time, I was probably about, 205, 210. And I'm like, okay. And mind you, the two gentlemen, Mike Heilman and the other guy, they ran down to the bottom and they're just standing down there, but literally right underneath me between the two towers. How you doing? Well, I'm good, but it's cutting in a little. You know, I'm trying to yell down to them like, okay, so what do you think you're going to do in this case? I'm like, well, are there options, or is the only other option just hand over hand? They're like, bingo. See if you can get back. And if you don't, it's absolutely fine. I'm like, okay. I went 1, 2, and then I'm like, oh, I'm kind of going up a little bit. And, oh, this is a little harder than I thought. I made it to about 6 feet before my feet would have touched the platform. And my arms were burning so bad. I'm like, guys, I got to let go. And they're like, let go, man. We'll come to the other side and throw you a line. I was the only guy that made it that close out of everyone that tried out. So I was like kind of on cloud 9 for that. But boy, my arms hurt for a few days. So I ended up getting the job offer there, took the job, helped opened up the zip line about a month later, 6 weeks later. It was great. And then I started watching the shows a lot more closely. I'm like, these are just average dudes that get to portray rednecks. I'm like, come on, you go to a theme park where there's alligators and all kinds of what people would call creepy crawly things, and 2 of your main characters are named Bubba and Cooter. No joke.
I feel like this is a great.
Like, this is a real name.
This is small town grit right
This
here.
is.
This is your benefit of
Yes,
small town
and I
grit.
played Bubba and Cooter. I played both of them well, let me tell you. And I'm like, okay, well, someday maybe I'll get into entertainment here. That'd be kind of cool. But anyway, I'm doing the zip line guides. I'm taking 15 people out at a time, and it's great. You know, we were busy all the time. But one day I'm like walking around the park, and another good friend of mine, Russ, who has a YouTube show and is a play director in Orlando, really, really cool older gentleman. We just started walking up one of the main walkways, and we're talking. I'm like, yeah, I want to get into entertainment here one day. He's like, really? Why didn't you say that before? I'm like, well, you and I don't really hang out or talk a whole lot, but I'm happy where I'm at, but I would love to do these shows in front of all the people. Okay, let's meet up. What time's your lunch tomorrow? I'm like, oh, I don't have my schedule for tomorrow. Whenever I'm off. He's like, call me over the radio and I'll find you and we'll meet up. Met up with him the next day for lunch. He's like, I talked to Mike. Mike says you can have an audition anytime you want. So he gave me all 3 scripts for the 3 different shows that the park runs. I had 3 days to learn them. I kind of knew a lot of them anyway because I'd watched them so much. Went in, did the audition, and they're like, cool, well, this is your last week as a zipline guide because you're transferring to entertainment now. And a couple years there, man, wrestling alligators, doing shows. We did a show called the Up Close and Personal Show where it's 2 of the entertainment staff from Gatorland, 2 of us guys, and we're on a stage. It's kind of like a cool little grandstand in front of us, a few hundred people, and there's boxes all over the stage. And it was scripted and well blocked out, but we had to go around and open boxes. And sometimes we'd have people come out of the audience. And at one point in the show, the gimmick is we reach in a box and the guy's, your partner in the show is a few feet out from you. And he's got, I'll be honest, we were kind of instructed, try to pick some of the good-looking gentlemen and good-looking women you can tell are tourists out, give them a little spotlight. I'm like, okay. So if I was the guy out there, I'm there with, nice-looking tourist lady there or a bigger burly guy, whoever. And, okay, so is there anything you're scared of? Oh, we don't like spiders. Oh, okay. And you grab their wrist real tight. Meanwhile, the guy behind me, my partner, is opening a box and getting 2 tarantulas out. So, okay, now shut your eyes. Is that a hamster? We're kind of just going back and forth. And, well, hang on. Luke's just going to, or Dave, whoever's going to put this in your hand. So you had a firm grasp on their wrist because otherwise they'd flick the thing. And then the other guy walks around when their eyes are closed and just gently puts it in their hand. And 9 out of 10 times it went well. There were a couple lost because the power of the forearm and the elbow, literally. Never got stung because we also had scorpions. And the closest thing, I never got bit by any alligator at the park. No snakes, no scorpions. The closest thing that I ever had, which I can still feel it to this day, I was one of the guys doing the tarantula bit during that show. And after we do give Lucy a round of applause. Okay, Lucy, go sit down. And then each of us guys takes 1 tarantula and we walk up through the bleachers. We're doing a little spiel back and forth, giving lots of information out. Well, it started to rain a little bit, and tarantulas don't like rain and don't like to get wet. So I'm walking around with a tarantula the size of my hand on my hand, And I'm like, oh, it's starting to rain. Well, let's get down here. Hey, guys, give it up for these rose hair tarantulas. And I'm walking down the steps. I'm about 20 steps up yet. And on the palm of my hand, I feel two little fangs go, doo, 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 doo. Like a warning, like, I don't like this. It was the creepiest thing I've ever felt in my life. Beyond creepy. And I've done some creepy things, Corey. Mainly at that park. But, yes, I've never got bit by one. And they say if you do, it's about like getting like stung by a wasp or a hornet. You're going to feel it if you have a reaction. If you get stung by a bee, maybe take a little sip of Benadryl, but you'd be fine. They don't break off in you. It's not going to send you to the hospital, but you'll have a little red mark there if you do. But never got bit or stung by anything. So what was your stage name? Down there, we just used our normal names unless, and again, it's not embarrassing, but the one main show at the park is called the Jumperoo Show. It's the object of the show is there's like an MC who's just your straight on Gatorland employee, got button shirt on, and he's auditioning two quote unquote twin brothers. And one of them gets a job at Gatorland, and you're up on the main stage, and there's a body of water in front of you, and there's lots of chicken involved, and that's Bubba and Cooter. And normally Bubba and Cooter, they're twin brothers, but sometimes it was me and let's just say a gentleman that maybe was a lot more tan, or that you could tell there's no place in this universe these two people could ever be related, but we're portraying twins. And again, it was all written that way.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, it's just a cool little park in town. It really is in Orlando. But no, other than that, it was just for the wrestling show. Hey, give it up for Luke, everybody. And that's that.
Yeah.
So no real characters there.
So probably mid 2000s, you made your way back here to Vassar?
Would have been around 2000, actually 12-ish.
Okay.
Yep. Just had a lot of good things down there, a lot of good things up here. But again, born and raised here. I know she remembers. I have just so wonderful memories of the flood. And I remember I used to ride my bike with another person that she would know. I'll mention his name some other time. We used to, I would meet him at the corner of Vassar Road in Pinkerton, where he lived years ago, and we would ride our bikes into the old Central School, but we would stop at the little Sunoco gas station downtown, and we'd each get like a can of Mountain Dew and a Snickers, and we thought we were amazing. Yeah. Like in 6th, 7th grade,
that's living,
you got the world by let me tell you.
You got a Mountain Dew.
Yeah, and sometimes like they would have like a king-size Snickers for like 10 cents. I'm like, 10 cents more? I'm like, this is king-size. Like you really felt like you had it, man.
Yeah. Or those little like half liters or whatever they were.
Yeah.
Was that what they were called? Half liters?
I don't remember that. I know exactly what you're talking about, though. Yeah.
They weren't 20 ounces. They were bigger than that.
Nope. I remember.
Just a liter. They were liters.
I think they were just, yeah.
Liter. Yeah, because 2 liters are
2 liters are the big ones, but it was bigger than the 20 ounce, but not, Yep, I think they were just the regular liter. Take your call, man. Take your call.
So you're radio host over at 92?
Yeah, actually, last year, like throughout COVID, I was kind of working over at the hospital in Saginaw Covenant, just doing like nurse assistant stuff.
Yeah, I remember that.
A little bit bigger guy on night staff. I was sought after because sometimes, you have unruly patients, but a little nurse would come in. Oh, Mr. Jenkins won't let me do this, won't let me do that. He called me, and I'm like, I'll go with you. You just walk in the room behind. I'm not a giant of a man, but I was still a male presence. Mm-hmm. And you walk in the room behind the nurse, and, oh, yes, ma'am, I'll take my pill. Or, yes, you can give me my... No 2 words said to me. I just stood there watching.
Yeah.
And I would admit sometimes if you knew a little bit more about the patient, I'd stand in there with my arms folded just looking. Like, you gonna do this? And... no problems. But anyway, last year I reached out because back in high school, I interned at WKYO and IDL in Caro when they were at a different location over by Walmart way back in the mid-90s. And I just sent an email and said, hey, I used to work at your station, gosh, eons ago, and always had good memories of it. Thought about getting back into radio, but I don't know. I never went to school for it because I went through life, kind of followed my own path, and it didn't involve going straight into college, straight into this, straight into that. I'm like, I'm here to live life. I ain't here to be a millionaire. And so here's the deal. I'm interested if there's any like entry-level position come available, If you could email me and let me know, that would be great. Oh, the dude Bob got a hold of me within minutes. He's like, hey, let's have lunch. I'm like, all right, cool. Met him for lunch, and he was a nice guy. And he's like, bought lunch. Thanks, Bob. And he's like, hey, I'm getting ready to kind of step away from this, step away about 80% of it. And I'm looking to train somebody that actually would like to be here. I'm like, well, can I come in one day and kind of see what you do? And I went in, and it was just a great day. Like, I do a Friday night show at 10 o'clock on 92.1. Other than that, I'm kind of like program director, you know? Like, I'm programming stuff. I'm cutting commercials. I'm doing a lot of production work. And it's just cool.
Yeah.
Fridays are my favorite day because I work from home, Corey. It's great.
Nice. Yeah.
I always schedule no production on Fridays. And this morning I did work with a cup of coffee with a David Bowie coffee mug and the nicest pair of like 5-year-old pajama pants you ever saw. It was a hell of a sight. Oh, it was.
Do you got a picture to share?
I don't, but see you next
Yeah,
Friday morning.
yeah,
You might get a little text.
Yeah.
No.
That should be your vlog right there.
Right there. Luke's pajama pants.
Right.
It's great.
Then you
Yes.
probably could sell them off, you know.
Oh, you know, I have 3 fans. So, yeah, I thought about that. 2 of them might fight for him, but the other one wouldn't care.
Did you intern with Jim Kramer?
Yes, I did.
I
also,
thought you did at one time. We talked about it one time.
Yep. Also, during the same time as I was interning at WKYO in Cairo there at WIDL, that was junior year. Senior year, I left high school at like 10:50 every day, drove to KCQ in Saginaw, the radio station there. It's where I got to know Jim better and some of the other folks that work there. And the beauty of that was I got paid and school credit, which was really
nice.
kind of cool.
Double.
It's
Double bonus.
Very double bonus. Good for me at the time. And then I did that Monday through Friday. And then on Saturdays, I went in from 8 a.m. until 12:15 on the AM channel in Saginaw. Kind of did like board op stuff, made sure local commercials played. And I had to queue up at noon on the nose, Paul Harvey. So I have about a year of every Saturday Paul Harvey under my belt, which was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And as soon as Paul Harvey got done, about 12:15, 12:20, I left, drove back to Vassar. Usually would come back, take a nap, get cleaned up, leave to go back to Saginaw at 5 because I was on the air at KCQ from 6 to midnight.
On the air.
Yeah. Well,
At 18 years old?
I was doing a lot of voice on the air between 10 and midnight, but from 6 to 10 was like the top country countdown, where I'd break in during the commercial breaks if there was like a line to read, a liner, or a quick weather report. Mm-hmm. But then from 10 to midnight, it was me playing all the songs on the list, doing all the commercials. I'm like, this is the coolest high school job ever, you know?
Yeah.
And again, I love all music. I'll be honest, don't hate me, Jim. Country's not like my high priority stuff to listen to, but Garth Brooks was probably one of the best concerts I've ever been to in my life because my God.
Yeah.
Like, amazing.
What year was that, roughly?
When I worked there?
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been 96 to 97.
Yeah, so Garth Brooks was probably...
Oh, yeah. Actually, I seen him twice there. Back in that time period, he did like...
Actually at KC?
Not at the building, no.
Okay.
I was able to go and see him twice at the Palace because he did 5 nights in a row at the old Palace of Auburn Hills. That was cool. And then fast forward to 3 weeks back in February of 2020, right before the world shut down, I'm with 80,000 people at Ford Field seeing Garth Brooks again, and it was phenomenal. And again, I love entertainment. I love when people can go out there and they sound like they do when you hit play on your, well, nowadays on your smart device or your computer. Back in my day, it was like the cassette tape. I still have a Walkman, Corey.
Do you really?
Yeah, I might have you autograph it sometime.
Hey,
just
I'll
for the
do
hell
that.
of it.
I'll do that.
Cool. But yeah, and it's like phenomenal. Like I'll tell anybody, I'm like, hey, I'm not a big country fan either, but there's a handful. Go check them out. You'll at least respect it a lot more. So it was cool.
So why didn't you stay there?
Back then, because
Or just was an opportunity?
it was a good opportunity, and I was very interested in it. But that's also when the wrestling bug was really.
Yeah.
I was doing a lot of because
Wrestling was pretty big back then.
at that time I didn't have internet at my folks' house when I was in
Yeah.
high school. I mean, I think they had one big like old school computer, Oregon Trail, great stuff. But KCQ had this thing called the internet. So a couple like Jim, not so much the big wrestling fan, but there was a couple other guys at the station who I'm still friends with to this day that every week on their shift, they'd go on the internet and print me off like 200 papers of like these dirt sheets about rumors and news of pro wrestlers, and then like wrestling schools everywhere. Back in the mid 90s, we had a wrestling school up in the UP.
No kidding.
Yep. There was a guy, I forgot his real name, but his wrestling character's name, it's the most unpleasant name ever, Corey, was Bastion Booger. Big, bald, 400-pound mammoth of a man. It looked like he wore like masking or some kind of like tape for it. It was just horrible. But he was from the UP, and he had a school up there for about 3 years. And I almost ventured up there to check it out. But then I found the one that I went to in Cincinnati, and it was like, oh, no, this is the real deal.
Yeah, I remember graduating in 98, so it would have been around that time. But wrestling was as big as Monday Night Football.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, it was Thursday Night Throwdown or whatever it was. I mean, you tuned in to that wrestling.
You had that, and then Monday nights, and it was like, this is ridiculous. Yeah. And I knew from a young age, like I remember the Andre the Giants and Hulk Hogan's and a lot of the older guys. And even then, like I was smart enough to know, okay, this is a soap opera for boys. You know, this is a man soap opera. It's entertaining and it's not real. But even at the young age, I'm like, but it takes a lot, I think, to do this. And then as I got older, teenage years, and then when I actually did it for almost 2 years, it was like, this takes so much.
But they had like NWO, like they had like the big divide. And so they kind of had a storyline to follow.
Yeah.
And you wanted to tune in.
Actually, years ago, when I was at KCQ, back then where the NWO wrestled in the WCW, they were doing like their Monday Nitro show in Saginaw. And I actually did a phone interview with, have you heard of Diamond Dallas Page?
DDP.
His ex-wife, Kimberly. She was a Nitro girl back then, and the Nitro girls were doing like a lot of publicity for I'm like, oh, this broad's like 6'1", and she's cute, and I'm a high school boy. This is great, and I'm working radio. And it was phenomenal. It was like a 20-minute interview. It was great, right at KCQ. It was great stuff,
You see what he's doing now?
Yeah, like the yoga and stuff, and there's a phenomenal show on, I believe it's Amazon, which features a couple other wrestlers. The Resurrection of Jake the Snake.
Yes, I've seen that.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
Like, but boy, Jake was down, wasn't he?
Ramon.
Yep, and Scott Hall. Yeah,
Scott Hall. Yeah.
But my God, like that's phenomenal what he's done, and he's changed a lot. I've watched a lot of his YouTube videos.
But you always see like guys like Hulk Hogan, and he can, barely get around.
Diamond Dallas he's 6'6". He can put his foot up behind his ears. I'm like, okay, it's working for you. Dang.
But that was one thing I liked about wrestling. You had all kinds of different characters.
Oh yeah,
right. You had clean cut guys to.
And nowadays, you do have a lot. You have big guys, but you have guys that are like smaller than me, and I'm like, wow. And it's unbelievable because I don't know.
Ray, I want to call him Ray.
Ray Mysterio.
Yeah, loved Ray.
He's tiny, but he's like one of the greatest ever.
Yeah, remember when he could go up there and he did that leg thing around you and like.
Yep.
I don't even know what you call it, but I just.
He does so much. But again, that his whole like family background and other relatives that did it in Mexico and rest, I'm like, man, y'all kind of putting us to shame.
Yeah, what are they, luchadors?
Yeah, it's like you guys are a step above what we here in the States are doing. You know, it's like, my God. And it's still
Booker
cool,
T.
though. Booker T. And actually, I've got to see him years ago. The Undertaker lived in Florida. He lived outside Tampa. He lives in Texas now. But my aunt and uncle live outside Tampa, about a half hour or so north, 40 minutes. And I seen him at a mall once with, I think, one of the ex-wives. And then I seen him at a gas station. And talk about a big gentleman. Oh, my God, Corey. I'm like, you are 6'10" and 330. Like, he was ginormous. He is. And they say he's a teddy bear. And I watched, like, they did a documentary because he retired a couple years ago. And it was like a 5-part series, and I found myself like, next. I'm watching like 3 in a row. I'm like, this dude's like a cool guy, but yeah, what a character to play. And you left your legacy, but just a humongous individual.
Yeah, he was a big guy.
Oh.
Well, before we part, Luke, what's the next steps for you? Next
steps for me, I want to, I'm saving up for a new vlogging camera. Right now, I'm using the old trusty, fairly new iPhone, which works well, let me tell you. It's great, but I have my mindset on what I want. I'm kind of getting myself back into trying to do more video stuff. Just again, like I told you earlier, when you kind of spend a lot of time in a very small area, like you can only see me go to the grocery store so many times in 1 week. That kind of stuff. But I want to keep doing that. Got the Florida trip coming up here not too long down the road. And I don't know. I kind of want to, I have ideas that I'm going to branch out and throw at people farther down the line. Like I was talking to Jess about some stuff. A vlogger that I watch, it went from working 60 hours a week at a Starbucks in Florida, now goes to the theme parks and restaurants 5-6 days a week, does videos. That's his only income. And he is many steps above me, let me tell you.
Yeah.
But a lot of folks down there are doing a lot of like advertising with vlogging where the vloggers going in there and like, hey, I want to do a vlog. I want to go here. I'll be gone 2 days. Can I promote your business while I'm doing it? And then they kind of help with a little of the trap. Like there's just a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah,
it's not just
there's a lot of avenues.
throwing a video up anymore. So I'm just kind of right now. I'm kind of, and again, I'm not a big winter guy. I'm large, Corey. It's cold outside. I lived under palm trees for many years. I don't want to go outside.
Don't blame me, brother.
I'm not cut out. I didn't even like sledding down the old Central School hill when I was young. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Give me hot chocolate and stay in. But no, I want to keep doing that. The job is going well. My kids are great. I got good people in my life. All my folks are doing well. So
good.
Again, like I said, I wasn't put here to be a millionaire. I was put here to be happy, and that's what I try to go for every day.
Well, we wish you the best.
Well, thank you.
If you need anything from us, you know where to find us.
Sounds good.
And thanks for getting gritty with us.
Hey, anytime, man, anytime.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Thank you.